Arcane Staff. It's amazing! It can brawl, it can kite. Should you use it in solo PvP? Let's find out! In this video I will break down real fights and will slowly explain the thought processes behind them. Starting with the build. One-handed Arcane with the leftmost skills and the leftmost passive. Hunter Hood with the third skill and the third passive. Mercenary Jacket, third skill, first passive. Any plate boots whatsoever, as I go the second skill and the second passive, and this is the same for all plate boots. Mist Collar, Tedford Cape, roast pork for food, and some potions in my inventory. The Hunter Hood I sometimes replace with a soldier helmet on the third skill and the first passive. If I have money to spare, I will swap regular boots for royal boots. By default, I still keep them at second skill and second passive, so they are absolutely the same as regular boots, but I have an option to swap to Royal March if I meet any kiters. I will explain this later in the video. And now for the actual fights. If this isn't obvious by now, I'm doing them in Stalker Corrupted Dungeons. Arcane Staff is based on knowing your matchups and outplaying your enemies. In this manner it's kinda similar to spears. I will explain how I deal with the most common matchup archetypes and how do I outplay them. As the name implies, hit and run builds try to jump on their opponents, do some damage, and then run away. This tactic is often utilized by quarterstaffs, battle bracers, maces, and great hammers. My response is always the same. Wait for them to engage, pop some defensive to soak their damage, and then hit them on their way out. Consider the fight with this quarterstaff player. I swap to Inferno Shield and prepare a Geek Potion to have more defensives ready. I begin the battle, but I keep my finger on my Hunter Hood. I am prepared to press the button the moment the quarterstaff engages. They do their combo and end up doing more damage to themselves than they do to me. After the unsuccessful hit part of their strategy, they go for the run part of their strategy. I simply chase them and don't let them reset. Their cooldowns should be up any time now, so I'm preparing for another hit. I keep my finger on my next defensive, Inferno Shield in this case, and I'm ready to press it the moment they're on me. I use my E to purge their boots, so that they can't run away and reset. Or I just brawl while using my remaining defensives. My Hunter Hood is ready for their next combo. Dagger pairs usually start by stacking on Assassin Spirit charges. Once they have 3 of them, they close the gap somehow and do big damage with their E. To close the distance, these builds often run with Shoes of Tenacity or Assassin Shoes. However, this particular player is on a basic refreshing sprint, so I know that they will try to close the distance by hitting me with their W. Well, I think that would be their ideal plan. Let's see if I can spoil it for this player. In the top left I see that they are diligently stacking their charges, so I just dance around and make it hard for them to hit their W. Success! Now I know it's safe to chase them a bit and hit them from a distance. They turn around and give me a good opportunity to purge both their stacks and their shoes. They land their next Shadow Edge and do the big hit, but since they are lacking stacks, it doesn't hurt at all. I got surprised that their next Shadow Edge is already up and they hit it nicely, eating a good chunk of my health bar. I silence and pop my Mercenary Jacket, trying to get my health bar back. I started with the silence because I was afraid they're going to hide in their invisibility. Luckily they wasted it before, so I managed to get my health back. Now I'm still careful because I know they will attempt to land the next Shadow Edge. I managed to dodge it. Luckily they hit the frog behind me, so it's easy for me to just clean them up. There's not much to be said about the fight with these brawling gloves. I switched to Inferno Shield, as these builds tend to run away from my Mercenary Jacket. Now I simply pop a defensive every time they look at me with malice in their eyes. One-shot builds are similar to hit and run, except they forego the run part of their strategy and simply try to finish their opponent in a single big hit. Most one-shot builds will include items such as a demon cape, a demon helmet, a royal helmet or a druid robe. My strategy when fighting them is to figure out what their winning condition is and then try to spoil it somehow. One-shots will always go all in, so if I survive their single big hit, there isn't much else for them to do. Here's how I handled a pike one-shot build. I immediately realized that their strategy is to stack on a bunch of damage buffs, teleport to me, and club. My response? Wait until I can hear them stacking up, and then I simply walk away and wait for their stacks to wear off. My opponent realizes what I'm up to and panics a little while trying to catch up. They go invis, so I know that they've popped their Hillion shoes and are about to pounce. This is a cue for me to use a defensive ability and soak up the remainder of their damage. This works as expected and I take almost no damage from them. They've used all of their abilities to attempt the one-shot and are now left with nothing. I can clean them up in no time. Sleepcasters is a cheesy one-shot build which combines Harvester Cap with Boltcasters. Their ultimate plan is to silence me with their W and then do big damage with their E. They want to silence me because when I'm silenced I cannot pop any defensives. However, their silence is a skill shot and I can easily dodge it. That's why they run the Harvester Cap. This cap allows them to put me to sleep, and when I'm sleeping I am not moving. So that makes it very easy for them to land their W, silence me, and then do big damage which I cannot do anything about. Except I can! I can either switch my hood to cleanse, which can be cast while I'm under CC, or switch my W to motivating cleanse, which is the same. So I can shake off the silence and then do something about their E. Let me show you this in practice. This player is smart and doesn't waste their one shot right away. They are brawling with me and are trying to bait me into using my defensives. My plan is to interrupt their E with my E, and so I don't get baited into purging their cleric robe. Finally they go for the one shot. They sleep, they silence, I cleanse, I interrupt. And now I just finished the brawl. Boltcasters are good brawlers, but they are running a useless cap, so I have an advantage here. The easiest matchups are weapons that wanna stick on top of me and hit me over the head from a close range. This category includes, but is not limited to, all swords and all battle axes. My strategy is to kite them around. If they move towards me, I take a step back. If they move away, I follow them. And all the while, I'm slowly chipping them down from a safe distance. Most melee builds do have a way of closing the distance eventually, but it's rarely on terms that would be favorable to them. And once they finally do manage to close the gap, a good chunk of their HP is missing from all the poking I did just prior to that. Usually, it's enough to wear them down in the remaining brawl. Battle axes are amongst the easiest matchups. I can just kite them and don't let them brawl. This player uses their shoes together with their W, allowing me to purge them both with one E. Now I don't have E for their mercenary jacket, but it's fine because I still have my boots, which I can use to just space away. They try to run away, and so I stay on top of them, but keep the safe distance between both of us. Now they are pretty much cooked. They ran out of options, while I still have several. I still have my E, I still have potions left. It doesn't really matter which I decide to use. Spears have a shorter attack range than me, so I fight them as if they were a brawling weapon. If they move towards me, I step away. If they step away, I move towards them, all the time poking them from a safe distance. A Herald Spear running Forest of Spears on their W cannot do much to close the distance. They might have had a chance with some of their other Ws, but I could still just blink away. They try to use boots to catch up, so I use my boots to match theirs. I purge their soldier armor and keep on rolling. The Arcane Staff is a hard counter to all swords. Every sword wants to stack up on heroic charges and then brawl. Swords become significantly better at brawling if they have 3 stacks of the heroic charge buff. These stacks also make their E much stronger. However, I can just poke them from a safe distance, thus preventing them from gaining any heroic charge stacks. In order to close the gap between us and start bashing me over the head, they are often forced to use their E. But their E is much weaker if they don't have any heroic charge stacks on them. Most importantly, I can just purge their stacks with my E whenever necessary. In this fight, I'm facing a full spec dual swords player. They correctly identified that my plan would be to kite them, so without any hesitation, they immediately close the distance. They use their E to get close, and luckily for me, their E is quite slow and well telegraphed. It gives me plenty of time to pop a defensive and soak up most of its damage. Here I try to create some space between us so that I can poke them from a safe distance, and they correctly don't let me, and they stick on top of me and don't let me get away. However, they did one crucial mistake. They popped their mercenary jacket here, which allows me to purge it with my E, along with both of their stacks. Now I can just pop my mercenary jacket, which allows me to win the brawl, even though swords brawl much better than me. Fire staffs are usually an easy matchup. This is because my E can interrupt their E and leave them silenced, which is always a hard blow for a weapon that relies entirely on spellcasting. After all of this, it's usually easy to just outbrawl them, as they have no means of escaping. Here is a prime example. This fire staff player lets me get close to them. I brawl with them a bit, but really I'm just waiting for them to start channeling their E, so that I can immediately cancel it with my E. Boom! And that's it? Now I can just easily finish brawling. If I'm running soldier helmet instead of a hunter hood, then I usually use the helmet to counter their E, as I will show you in this example. I take a moment to think about my battle plan, and then I rush to fight. Since I have the helmet, I can use my E to purge their defenses, and then simply use the helmet to cancel their E. Now I just finished by brawling them to death. Cursed staffs are similar to fire staffs in that they want to do a big fat damage with their E. My response is to prevent them from doing this damage somehow, usually by popping a defensive. Then I stay on top of them and don't let them kite or hit and run. My build is better at brawling than they are, so if I stay on top of them, I can usually win. Usually, I start by swapping to Mimic and stealing the Cursed Staff W. It's not necessary and my W is just fine, but I found out that when I'm fighting Cursed Staffs, I don't need the extra mobility, so instead I can use the damage resistance reduction. We keep brawling, but really I'm just waiting for them to cast their E. Which they do, so I just pop a defensive and avoid most of the damage. Usually a single resistance potion is enough. I didn't have any this time, so I did use a geek potion and layered it together with a hunter hood, which might have been an overkill, but yeah, it doesn't matter. They are cornered and have nowhere to run, so I just finished them off. The matchup is even easier if I'm on soldier helmet instead of hunter hood. Finally, they managed to put 4 stacks on me, so they cast their E. Timing the block is not difficult, so I received no damage at all. Now I just stick on top of them and don't let them reset. As their last resort, they try to put a curse on me, although I don't have many stacks. Maybe the soldier armor could do any good, but I just purge it. Let me talk about the build a little bit. The auto attacks on Arcane Staffs are extremely slow and weak. It's useless to just use them by themselves unless I want to proc Thetford Cape or prevent my enemy from resetting. However, the auto attacks are much stronger when paired with the Q ability. To reach the optimal DPS, the best way is to weave them together. So first a Q, and then like 3 auto attacks, then a Q, and then like 3 auto attacks. Why 3 auto attacks? Well, it's because of the passive. It increases the range and the speed of the next 3 auto attacks after casting any spell. Now I don't actually count to 3 after casting spells, but it's a general rule, good to keep in mind. When clearing up the dungeon, I like to leave the arbalists, the mobs with the crossbows, intact. This is because they can't really hurt me or put me in combat as long as I keep moving. And if at any point during the fight I need to use my mercenary jacket and for some reason can't use it on my opponent, I can use these mobs to heal up. Speaking of clearing up the dungeon, I like to clear up the dungeon in a linear path so that there are no loops. This is because if I fight against Kytras like bows, then they have no loops that they can just run around forever and kite me, and eventually I will push them into some mobs, which slow them down and damage them a little bit. Speaking of Kytras, kiting builds are the most difficult matchup. This category contains all bows, but frost staffs can also be contained within it. The same thing that I do to Brawlers, these builds do to me. That is, they stay just beyond my range and slowly chip my health away from a safe distance. A good kiting build will have like 2 or 3 mobility abilities, while my build only has 1.5. Therefore, to catch the kiters, I need to employ a whole bunch of strategies, all of which could fill their own video. But, in summary, the first thing I do is put those overpriced boots to a good use and switch to Royal March. Given that I do have royal boots with me, of course. I don't always wear them, but when I do, this is their time to shine. Royal boots are terrible for running away, but they are excellent for catching up. Other strategies include baiting my opponent into using one of their mobility abilities to initiate the fight, or to catch up with me, forcing them into a brawl or pushing them to mob camps. I will demonstrate this on the next two examples. The battle with this frost staff starts by them getting a free hit on me. I space away and I want to see how they react. As mentioned before, ideally I would like them to waste some of their mobilities to chase me or to try and initiate. This player smartly doesn't do that though. And so I just wait. Waiting suits me because eventually bats will start to appear in the dungeon. Kiters hate bats. I'm okay with them. I might inch a little bit closer to get a look at their build because I didn't get to inspect them before, but I really do not want to start. Not with this fire trap behind my back anyway. They already have an advantage on me by running a build that counters mine, so I don't want to give them anything else for free. Eventually, they lose the game of patience and initiate inside the fire trap. This is good for me, I take it. The trap forces them to come much closer than they would like and allows me to get a few hits on them. Now they realize the situation and try to kite. This is where royal boots come into play. They wait out their hunter route, but I stick on top of them and don't let them get away, pushing them into mobs. Perch the cleric draw. Keep brawling, I want to brawl, this is good. With my mercenary jacket on, out-brawling them is not an issue. The fight with this warbow is started by me rushing into them with my royal boots. I expect them to start kiting, so I'm prepared to turn around while still on my boots. I guess I took them by surprise because they allow me to get quite close. I attempt to purge their boots and get their hunter route as a nice bonus with that. They use their assassin jacket to try and regain some space. I trade until I can, and once they are far enough, I kite back and wait for my boots. With my boots I can get close to them and pop my mercenary jacket. They no longer have their assassin jacket to hide, so they have no way of countering it. Except running away on boots, of course, which I expect and purge. And now we indulge in a game of cat and mouse. They try to run away and get a reset. My responsibility is to stick on top of them and don't let them if possible. Royal boots are excellent for catching up. They try and throw some traps in my way, but I can counter them with my soldier helmet. They are determined to get that reset, so I follow. I throw a blind W into their invis, and I know it connected because I got Blink as my next ability. I was prepared to purge their boots in here as well, but alas, I was silenced by the Mephit. So now I just wait for my next royal march. In their health bar I can see they already started resetting, but I still want to catch up as soon as possible and hit them again to stop it. I use my Enigma blade on this toad to get a blink so that I can blink behind the trap and stop the reset successfully. Now they have a nice distance. I cannot do anything, they could just hit me for free, so I kite back and wait for my next boots. I connect a blind W and I risk a blind E as well, because I know they are standing somewhere on this choke, there is not that much space for them. My plan here was to kite back and wait for my next boots, but they actually get quite close, so I take it. I don't purge this hunter hood because my boots are about to come online and I wanna use those. So I do. I catch them up and they no longer have any mobility to get away, so I easily outbrawl them. And that's how I play the Arcane Staff. And there are of course more less common matchups that I didn't explain, like healers or shapeshifters, but the video is already getting quite long, so next time maybe. Thanks for watching all the way till the end. Subscribe if you want.